next session where we would be talking about something called as conversational AI. As the name implies, conversational AI is a huge concept which deals with a lot of interactions related to customer service and how you can stay or how you can enhance the communications between your customers and the business, and not just having these as irrelevant conversations. How do you make it sound like a meaningful conversation is all what conversational AI talks about. Conversational AI is nothing but a piece of software which is super powerful, which is not just any piece of random software. Now, this software takes two things into account. It takes into account something called as deep learning, and it also uses data from machine learning, and then use with a concept called as NLP, which is natural language processing. Now, this system sounds like a human while it is not actually a human. So using these techniques, if you are coming up with something that sounds like a human while it's actually not, is what gave birth to something called as conversational AI. If you look at a traditional chatbot just follows rules, and it also deals with linear conversations, which means if you start interacting with the chatbot, and if you ask the chatbot about where is your business located, it will give you the information that you've asked for, which is pre-programmed, which means all these information is already a part of your bot, which means you have fed these into rule-based things into your bot. You can ask any question, the bot will respond with those questions. Now, that is all a chatbot does. Now, on the other hand, a conversational AI is a complete end-to-end conversation system in place. It takes care of, you really want to understand this in detail, because this is something which is so powerful that it can revolutionize customer service in the days, months, years to come. Now, conversational AI not just answers your question, it also answers your questions, but it also takes care of certain decisions that you would want to take. For example, if you are dealing with a bank, now this is a bank, right? Now, if your bank has a bot set up, which is a conversational AI bot, what you would be able to do is in the chat window there is a conversational AI bot which sits on the bank's website, which interacts with you as a human. For example, if you have lost your ATM card or your credit card, for example, and you're worried that you would want to block your card, right? Now, you can call the bank. That's one way. That's a traditional way of doing these things. You can call the bank, which may result in a lot of wait time. To avoid that and to make it easy and seamless for the customer, you have an alternate option to talk to the bot or the conversational AI bot of the website, where you're given certain options to choose from. For example, if you're worried about your loss of card, you can just click a button, and that will navigate you to an option where it says just hit block, and we will go ahead and block the card, right? Now, this is not just an answering tool. This is not an answering bot. This is a bot which is actually thinking like a human, and it is actually taking a decision for you, right? While chatbot just answers a few linear questions that you may have, but a conversational AI bot is actually taking a decision for you. So if you look at this is such a big picture, while chatbot is just a small part of the entire pie. That's exactly what you need to understand about dealing with chatbots and communication and conversational AI systems. Conversational AI systems is an ocean, and we are just looking at the tip, which is the chatbots. Alright, so if you start looking at this screen, the only purpose of me including the screen here is to show you where conversations happen on the internet. Most of the conversations, as you see, are happening on WhatsApp, Facebook Messenger, and WeChat. WeChat is specific to China. Now, most of the conversations are happening here. So I don't need to tell you or repeat how important it is for us to go ahead and start having a chatbot, because if you don't do it now, you're eventually going to lose out on a lot of other things or good stuff that you would have to forego if you don't start investing into these things. So I don't need to explain again how important these things are, but it makes more sense for us to go ahead and start looking at these things in detail. Here are the key differences between using a chatbot and having or investing into a conversational AI platform. Chatbots are basically rule-based, which means you give them a certain set of rules and they abide by those rules. They're basically keyword-driven. Then it acts basically on some rules that you have given. For example, somebody is asking for, or if there is a presence of a word called timing or hours in the user query, you will send them a related link or route them to that particular page on your website. Difficult to train, as every utterance needs to be explicitly trained, which is very difficult because you can't train a chatbot on what the user may be thinking, or it can't predict what the user may be looking at. So it is very difficult to scale, and it is very difficult to train, of course, a chatbot because it only engages in linear conversations. To optimize the bot performance, companies have to explicitly update rules, and there are so many rules involved, and I think there are about 110 rules that you can handle, beyond which a chatbot loses its capacity. On the other hand, if you start looking at conversational AI platforms, these are powered by deep learning, which I've told you, and it is also using natural language processing, or NLP, which emulates the user behavior or the language that humans use. It understands a wide variety of ways in which a person can ask a question without being explicitly trained on every utterance or every mention of that word. Then you have learns from real interactions, understands spelling mistakes in short form while a chatbot does not. Easily to bootstrap training with historical data. It looks at the historical data. If you remember what we had discussed yesterday, there is a contextual based chatbot or a bot or an AI system that you can create, which based upon your history of the orders that you have placed can go ahead and suggest you the orders, or if it tells you that you have been ordering the same stuff all this while, do you want me to go ahead and repeat the order for you? Reinforcement learning makes it easy to adjust and retrain, has knowledge of real world context, and it just understands the spellings, it just understands the context that you're coming from, the country that you're coming from based upon the language or the spellings that you're using, which is very, very, very important. On the other hand, if you start looking at how these things work in practice, if you start looking at how these things perform in action, it's very interesting. A chatbot says, how can I help you, right? If you start looking at this message, how can I help you? Type order status, shipping policy, or return request. Then if you ask, this is your response. If you say, where is my refund? Then it says, I'm sorry, I don't understand. Please only type order status or shipping policy or return request. These are predefined. It doesn't understand that refund request is the same as where is my refund, right? If you have ever interacted with an Amazon customer service bot, you will understand this. It doesn't understand what you're talking about. It just asks you to give you certain specific queries. You just have to type in those things for the system to go ahead and respond to your query. Then you have a conversational AI system. Let's see how that performs. How can I help you today? You ask, where is my refund? Let me pull that up for you. Your refund is currently being processed. It should refund back on your original form of payment in the next 3 days. That's it. You're done. Now, what is the difference between both of these things is here it is only acting upon a predefined set of rules, right? And here it is trying to understand and it is trying to emulate user behavior, right? Now, it also tries to think like a human, which is the biggest asset. It thinks human, which is the biggest asset of investing in a conversational AI platform. Now, this whole thing was just for you to understand that there is a difference between chatbot and there is a difference between a conversational AI system, and not to get confused with both. This discussion, ladies and gentlemen, I would want to repeat again, is solely focusing around chatbots, which is more than enough as a digital marketer for us to execute these things in daily lives. Unless you are a developer and if you're somebody who is heading a customer service department and you would want to reform the whole conversations that happen in your business, you can start looking at conversational AI. But I promise you that as much as I can, I will include more about conversational AI along with the chatbot learnings that you will have in this session, and you will be more than happy to learn conversational AI in association with chatbots. Until then, this is Casey signing off. See you in the next session, and we will be talking about what a chatbot can accomplish. See you until then, Casey.